Welcome to Fierce, Fit, Feminine, and Other F Words, a place where women in business come to learn more about health, beauty, body language, and communication. That's a lot. I'm Christine Brunelli, chiropractor and former beauty salon owner turned certified image and business consultant, helping you look and feel fabulous from the inside out so that you glow both on and off camera. And today, the topic does not help you glow. What are you dreading in your work right now? What is that thing that you dread? I'm telling you, my girl, it is keeping you dull. You are not looking radiant when you're dreading something. So we're going to talk about the power of dread, what that has over you, and how to overcome it. Are you ready? Let's get started. I've been a brick and mortar business owner for 30 years. Now, as of a year ago, it is 2023 at this recording, but I sold my last business, my last brick and mortar business, to move all online a year ago. But in those 30 years, I was an employer. So I did a lot of hiring and firing. And I can tell you that having conversations with employees that are uncomfortable, it's dreadful. That is something I can completely relate to when I hear the word dread. For example, I had an employee that I needed to let go. I really liked this employee, but she did some things that were not acceptable. They were not okay. It was terrible for the business. And her coworkers knew she did it. So I was in a corner because it was something where if you let one thing slide, other things slide. You have to be a firm business owner. Yes, you have to have grace and all of these things. But when it comes to damaging your business, you need to take action. So I really had to muster the energy and the words to have a conversation with someone who I actually liked, but I had to let her go. It's a hard, tough thing. When I see all of this news, it's 2023 during the time of this recording, I'm seeing all this news of layoffs. And, a lot of people are like, oh, big man doesn't care. Big corporate doesn't care. But you know what? Maybe big corporate doesn't care, but a human still has to face these people giving them a pink slip that they're laid off. And that human hates it. I can guarantee they have personal relationships with some of these people that they have to let go. That's a feeling of dread. Another example of dread you may have is like a task that you have to do, right? So you put it off, and then it turns into procrastination. Well, what I want to talk to you about today is recognizing dread for what it is and how to overcome it, because you can. But first, let's just go into dread in general. What is dread by dictionary terms? Because there is a little difference of what I want to address today. I want to talk about work dread, not existential, the world is coming to an end dread, right? There's different kinds of dread, and I don't want to laugh at that, but I'm just using it as an example. So by the dictionary term, dread is defined as anticipation with apprehension or fear, or a sense of impending doom. Impending doom is the dread that we recognize that we're dying or we're going to die. I remember as a little girl, I may have been like 7 years old, 8 years old, where I really had my first taste or understanding that people died. And I was super close to my grandmother. And I remember crying in her arms in her rocking chair and saying, I don't want you to die. It was just that impending doom dread. That's existential dread, where it comes from the outside, things that we cannot control. And also dread that comes from, fear of something terrible happening, nuclear bomb. Those are things that I'm not addressing today. And a lot of that kind of stuff needs to be addressed with a professional medical provider. So if you're someone that is paralyzed by dread for things that make you not want to leave your home, you're just listening to me on this podcast, my friend, you need to find someone to talk you through it and help you through it. This podcast episode is not for that. This is for overcoming work dread. And so let's talk about what work dread is, because we're going to move into that. Because if you're human, you have dread about something. You have something, whether it's a task or a conversation, but let's just categorize dread in different ways that might relate to you. Fear of uncertainty, dreading something because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. A life change, Maybe you are divorced, newly divorced, and you don't know if you're going to be taken serious in your industry or something like that. There's a dread or it could be any life change. It could be a diagnosis, right? And all of that. Uncertainty is connected to that. Self-doubt or doubting is a form of dread. Worry and fear, obviously. Problem solving. If you really dread problem solving, like I hated math. I'm just going to say in high school and college and all of that, I hated it. But I really hated math problems when it was a written math problem and it was timed, because I needed to draw what the word, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I would actually, Betsy has 9 eggs and 1 egg, blah, blah, blah. The second egg, blah, 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 right? I would have to use pictures to help myself solve that problem. And the tests, if they were timed, it could slow me down. I dreaded that, right? So that's another form of dread, problem solving. Learning new things and tasks that we dread. Learning new things is so big in the workspace for dread. So examples of that, tech learning. If you have to learn something new that's technical and you call yourself a tech dinosaur, you dread it. I know because I was you. I knew a little, I thought, I'm okay. I'm a little tech savvy. I can figure out social media. Well, let me tell you, when you shift from brick and mortar business to, you're not just doing Excel and Excel spreadsheets or something like that and social media, and you're moving into the online space, you have to learn tech that you didn't even know existed. And it's mind-blowing. I'm just, in the last 2 years, amazed actually at how much I've had to learn. And I dreaded learning it because I was telling myself I was a tech dinosaur, but I don't use those words anymore. We'll get into that later. Confrontation is a form of dread at work. Asking for time off. That can be dreadful. How about public speaking? That's a big one. You should be on stages somewhere, but you dread it. You could make more of an impact, but you dread it. You dread it or you fear it. One or the other, they kind of go together. A career change could be dreadful. I don't know why that word change was so hard for me to say. That can feel dreadful because it's connected to uncertainty, right? Networking. Do you dread networking? You know you need to do it, but you're kind of an introvert at heart and you hate it. You dread that. How about being on camera? I'm your camera confidence queen. I help you feel confident on camera because I know what it's like to dread being on camera. I dreaded what I looked like in photos. I dreaded the first time I had to go live on Instagram. I know that dread. I know how to overcome it. Social media dread is a thing. I dread it now for different reasons than I did for work. I avoid Facebook like the plague now. I can't stand it. And I have to say, politics ruined it for me. I want to like people. And I know somebody out here is going, yep, I get you. I don't want to scroll through and see what you stand for and what you believe in, and you name calling somebody that doesn't agree with you. And it just created so much hate. I really don't think it's the political figures that are as divisive as social media makes it divisive. Right? If we didn't have social media, it would be less because we've always had divisive people. It was just that we had to wait for it to be in print to know about it, right? It's just different now. And so social media dread in terms of, I don't want to go in, but I probably should see whose birthday is today and say happy birthday and be a good person. But you may be dreading social media for your work. You know you should be showing up on social media and you're not doing it. That's a form of dread. So now that we know all the different things that we dread, and you already knew you dreaded them, but I'm trying to uncover as many as possible. I want you, instead of trying to dig in and say, why do I dread this? And do some navel gazing. You don't need to do any navel gazing. I'm going to save you a lot of time. The reason we dread things is because our brain is designed to protect us from fear and uncertainty. It's designed to keep us safe. And if we fear a conversation or a confrontation, or we expect some type of situation where there's uncertainty, or we're going into unknown territory, that's normal. Our brain is going to dread that thing. There, I saved you a whole lot of time navel gazing. I'm not talking again about the serious dread that needs mental health work. I'm talking about work dread. That's all it is. It's connected to your primal brain is saying, nope, alert, alert, alert. This feels unsafe. This feels weird. This doesn't feel right. I like my predictable territory. So you dread things. And instead of running from the dread, procrastinating from the dread, what I want you to do is sit with it. So this is step one for overcoming dread, because my goal for you is to overcome the thing you dread and get her done. But I am not a good sitter. I don't like sitting and I like to do. But when it comes to the things I dread, certain things, I could put those off for weeks, let me tell you. Weeks. So is that doing me any good? Is that moving the needle forward in my life? Am I being productive? No. The best way to overcome that I have learned is to acknowledge that I'm dreading it. Not just look at it and go, yep, nope, not doing that today. Sit down and go, why am I dreading this? What is it? Literally break it apart. So I want you to think about that thing you're dreading right now. Why are you dreading it? Acknowledge it. Say, I'm dreading doing this. Think about what you experience in your body when you think about doing it. What do you feel? Do you feel any weirdness? Do you feel something tingling in your belly, in your gut, in your neck, in your shoulders? Like, describe it. What you're dreading doing. Describe it. What are the emotions connected to that thing you're dreading? Describe them. Write them down or think about them right now. If you're in your car, you wouldn't be able to write anything down, but I want you to come back to this because this really works. I want you to acknowledge the dread. I want you to sit with it, but not for too long. I also want you to say sentences, acknowledge the sentences about the dread that you're experiencing. What is the sentence you're telling yourself? For example, me dreading learning how to learn new tech for being an online business owner. I called myself a tech dinosaur. That sentence was not helping me. It was keeping me stuck. What are the sentences and the thoughts? Maybe it's a belief or a thought of what might happen if you move forward with this thing you're dreading. Write those sentences down. Write those thoughts down. Acknowledge it. Describe what you feel in your body and write those thoughts down. Are they legitimate thoughts? Are they legitimate? If someone were sitting across from you with that same thought, the same thought process, how would you coach them? This is a self-awareness practice, a self-awareness exercise that helps us overcome dread in our work so that we can move forward. But this same thing works in our personal life. You dread going to the gym? Let's break it down. And yes, we already uncovered why we dread the thing. I'm going deeper into it though. Let's break it down. What are you dreading about it? So it applies to your personal life, but for your work life, you need to sit with it, acknowledge it, write down all these thoughts. But I'm going to give you a little reminder about those thoughts. Remember that you don't have to believe everything your brain says. Your thoughts become things. That's true. If you believe something over and over again, you are going to find evidence for it being true. You will always find evidence for what you believe. Your brain is going to find evidence to keep you stuck. You need to train yourself to get through this. Go through this exercise because what it does is it removes the power of dread and those thoughts. It lessens the intensity so they don't have the power over you. We don't want to suppress the thoughts, but we also don't want to obey them. They are keeping you stuck. This is where that exercise in self-awareness really comes into play because it's where change can happen. You want to move toward your dread, move forward. That is the secret sauce to overcoming it. See it as an invitation to improve yourself. It takes a lot of energy to dread something, and it takes a lot of energy to move forward. Which one would you rather spend your energy on? I mean, really, get real with yourself. Where would you rather be? You're spending energy in both. I want to see you move forward, run toward the dread, and maybe not run. First, sit down and do that little self-awareness exercise, and then go toward the dread. But you have to remember something. Whatever you're not transforming, you're transmitting. Ooh, that's a writer downer. Whatever you're not transforming, you're transmitting. So if you are dreading something and you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, you are transmitting stuckness. You're not transmitting change. You're not transmitting personal growth. I'm here to help you push and move forward to grow. Get over that hump. I know it's in you. It is in you. Use these tools to approach your dread and then break it down into bite-sized pieces, because each time you move forward, you're going to get a dopamine hit. You know what I'm talking about. If you've tackled something that you've put off for a long time, it feels so good. Well, the same thing with dread. You get a dopamine hit and it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I can take on the world. The only way to counteract dread is forward movement, or else you're stuck forever. And I don't want that for you. There is another way to make sure that we can tackle dread besides sitting down and acknowledging it. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it. We can't prevent dread, but we can do things to stay in peak state. What do I mean by peak state? I mean the zone. Have you ever been in the zone? I know you have. That zone, and it may have been 100 years ago. Well, maybe 20 years ago, but you felt like, bring it on. I've got you. I can take it on. Bring it, bring it, bring it. That attitude, that's the zone. Usually when we're in the zone, we have taken care of our health on all aspects. If you are tired, burned out, drained, not feeding your body properly, not getting enough rest, all of these things, dread stays longer. So check yourself. Are you getting enough rest? Are you moving your body intentionally with exercise? Sedentary people usually have problems moving forward toward things that they dread. I'm sorry, but it's true. Not sorry. It is true. It's not my rule. That's the world. That's science. Nutrition. Are you feeding your body and your brain the food it needs to be in peak state? Peak state meaning ultimate health. Are you striving for that? Hydration. I talk about it all the time because that helps you glow and look beautiful. Are you drinking enough water? I mean enough water. And rest. Are you taking rest strategically? Giving your body rest so that you could recharge to take on the next thing. All of these things come into play because when you are not doing all of those things, it's easier to stay stuck. Your brain's going to keep you stuck. You're not doing all the things to help your brain move you forward. And by the way, those peak state things help you glow. You look like you could take on, you look like a goddess. You look like a warrior when you're rested, you're hydrating, you're exercising. You have a different air about you. You have a different energy level. Whatever you're dreading, if you're letting it take over and it's sitting on you and weighing like a heavy weight, it's always with you. You carry it wherever you go. It's a little bit dull. It dulls you just a little. You want to brighten how you feel, how you look, you need to tackle the dread. So as a recap, how do we do it? First, we see dread as an invitation for self-improvement. We look at it and go, okay, I am dreading this thing. Why? Let's figure it out. This is asking me to better myself, improve my life. And we're going to acknowledge it, sit with it, write down everything it makes us feel, because as soon as we acknowledge those things, it loses its power, it decreases the intensity, and the dread's not as scary. And then after that, we go forward, we move forward, even if it's in bite-sized pieces. And then we look at that health component of nutrition and sleep and exercise and rest and all of those things. My girl, if you do all of this, you can take on that one thing you're dreading and get it off your list. And you can use this over and over and over again, and also in your personal life. I hope this was helpful. If it was, go to Apple Podcasts and give me a 5-star. I am working really hard to give content to you that will help you move the needle forward in your life in health, beauty, styling, communication, and looking radiant from the inside out. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. See you then.